basically welcome. And for everyone who is either live or is going to get this in the replay, I really want to say thank you so much for joining and hoping that, you'll really benefit from this session today because, so often I've found that we start the year off really excited and we make these bold plans. And then along the way, as we say, life happens. And before we know it, January is gone, February is gone, and we're thinking, okay, I might as well just not bother. I won't continue. So this year, in having conversations with a number of ladies, I realized that everyone really actually wants to progress. Everybody wants to have a better life. And particularly because the women I come in contact with, they're all ambitious, high-performing women. So when they don't see the type of progress that they're hoping for, they can become demotivated. And it's because of this, I thought, this topic, your boldest year yet, would be a good one to introduce at this point in time. Um, January's workshop, we focused on the power shift. And in February, I thought, because we're going into the third month of the year, which is basically that month, the end of that month is end of the first quarter. A lot of us high performing women, we really monitor our progress throughout the year on a quarterly basis. So typical for me would be by the end of March, I'm kind of doing my self audit. And it can be inhibiting, I would say, when we notice that the goals that we set or the actions that we've identified for that particular goal, we're not actually achieving them, right? So I wanted to share with you today 3 power moves that you can incorporate, very simple, to help you crush 2025. They are so simple, you are going to be quite surprised. And I can guarantee you it would not be things that you can say, well, wow, I didn't know about this. But what I've noticed too is in recent times, I saw someone make this comment, knowledge is power. And I admit that I have shared this so frequently. Knowledge is power, knowledge is power. And this particular lady who is a very I would say very successful coach and successful speaker. She's on TEDx. She actually produces a number of TEDx speakers as well. She said, knowledge is not power because of the fact that if we believe that we are ingesting a lot of information and that makes us powerful, it's not. What makes us powerful is action. And I felt that that was such a brilliant statement because very often we do fall into a trap where we think that the more we consume, and we've all been down this road, we get certificates after certificates. But then we go back into the workplace, and chances are we don't necessarily apply what we've learned. But we are very proud of the fact that we are qualified in all these different things. If we only consume the knowledge, but we don't actually take action, then really and truly, the knowledge is not power in that regard. All right. So it's the basis for this workshop today. We are not going to just consume information here. We're gonna take action. All right. So I really want to say again, welcome and thank you. And what we're going to keep it really short in the sense of this table of content. When I was putting this together, there's so much valuable information to put. But then I stopped and I thought about it, what is it that people want? In the world that we are in today, people just want fast results. No one wants to sit for a long time and just hear things that they probably know already, essentially. They want to know, how can I get to where I need to get faster, in a smarter way, and still enjoy my life, right? So I'm going to share something with you as we do the welcome and intention setting, because I think intention setting is very critical. If we are not taking the time to be clear on our intentions, and we are not taking intentional action, it's not any surprise that we're not going to see the needle moving in the direction that we want it to move. So we're going to do that, and then I'm going to just very, very short recap on the power shift, which is really the framework that I have adopted and I'm utilizing throughout, all the things that I present, particularly this year. And then we're going to dive straight into the power moves. So 3 power moves, and in each case, we're going to do a little activity so that you can get the sense of actually putting it into practice one time. I mean, you could put it in the chat, how many times you've gone to something, you've listened to a webinar, you've gone to a workshop, you've done maybe someone's challenge, you've gone to a training course, and again, you've consumed all the information. It's all exciting, and even during this session, you are saying, oh, this is great. I'm going to do this. I can't wait to go and apply it into, whatever activity that you're doing. And then you get in there and you end up not, you don't apply anything, and you realize, oh my gosh, what did I actually learn during that program or that course or that webinar or that podcast? So today, in order to help with that, we're going to actually do these power moves so that it'll be in your mind. You're going to remember it, and every time you try to think of the power move, you'll have the activity to relate it to. And then I have a very nice invitation to extend to you at the end of the session. All right, so what I want to do here, ladies, is I really want to share with you a scenario. All right. Now I want you to really experience this. So get yourself comfortable and, just take a few minutes with me to go through this. So we're going to actually picture a scenario here. We are going to fast forward to December 31st of this year. And it's the final hours of December 31st. And I'm sure for many of us, that's a time when we're pretty excited. We probably have a party to go to. We may have friends or family coming over to ring in the new year together. But if you're like me, it's also a bit of a sad day. It's a sad day. I'm probably not always the glass half full type of person. It's something I continue to work on. But December 31st is a day when I really sit and I think about the entire year. And I think about the year that's coming. So imagine yourself, December 31st, you're sitting in a quiet moment away from everybody. Maybe your friends, your guests haven't arrived home as yet, or maybe it's not time to get dressed to go to some party somewhere. You're just in your quiet moment, and you decide to reflect on the past 12 months. Maybe you're holding a cup of tea, or you're actually holding a glass of wine, right? Whatever suits you at that time. And because it's quiet and you're just sitting, relaxing, you're scrolling through your phone. And you're looking at everyone who's starting to post, new year, new me, all exciting, looks very, impressive of how their year has gone, and and all the things that they've accomplished throughout the year. And then it hits you. Another year has passed. And those big, bold goals that you've set, you're thinking, what about them? I was so excited in January. I had all these things I wanted to accomplish. And then you say, you know what? Some of these actually did happen. I was able to get through, my training course. I was able to purchase, maybe some things for the house, or maybe you had a big one, like purchasing a vehicle, right? And you didn't quite get to that because you didn't, get certain bonuses and so forth. And you realize that, gosh, okay, so I'm okay. I did one or two of the things on that list, but I had a long list. So what happened? Life got in the way. And you whisper to yourself, next year will be different. I promise myself, next year will be different. But this other little voice comes in and says, but will it? What's your track record? Have you really been able to do better year after year? Now, ladies, I want us to think about, it's not just about hoping things will happen, right? It's not about writing down the goals in a notebook and forgetting about them by February. So we are toward the end of February. How are you progressing with your goals? Have you forgotten them? Have you decided to just give up? 2025 will not be any different from all the years gone by unless you are different. And that doesn't require a total overhaul, by no means. So you don't need to be scared and feeling overwhelmed. And Kathy, thanks for that. You're saying, you can relate to that. Thanks for that, because I actually can relate to that as well. And I am saying that, you can hear a lot of different people out there, so much information, as we are all aware, on social media, so much information about how you can crush your goals. And some people will say, here's the top 5, here's the top 10 things you can do. And sure, they're all valuable. But even that can make us feel overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, 10 things that I need to know to do. So I have broken it down into 3 bold power moves that you can take. And I can guarantee you, you will be surprised how simple they are, and you might hesitate. But I can guarantee you, if you do apply them, you are going to see yourself crushing your goals. And why I say that is because I have been there. I know this because I've been there. I stood in your shoes, wondering why things weren't shifting. Why is it that even though I was doing all the right things, I still wasn't seeing a change? I played it safe. I waited, always waited for the perfect moment. And eventually, fear always decided for me. So guess what? Even though I had the nice, bold actions, I was not taking them, because fear would jump in and keep me safe. That's what our subconscious does, right? It keeps us safe. So I remember the exact moment. It was December 31st, 2023. I had just been made redundant from my job. And, it was obviously Christmas, and my family was doing their best to help me have a normal Christmas. and not be focused on the fact that I'd lost my job and what was going to happen in the following year. And my palms were sweaty. I could hear my heart beating. I could hear my own, thoughts saying to me, what if you fail? What if you fail, Alicia? But instead of shrinking, I asked myself, what if I succeed? So I reframed it. What if I succeed? And that's when I took my first real bold move. And suddenly, ladies, suddenly everything changed. It was almost as something just switched in my head, in my brain. I felt excitement. I felt like a sense of calm, actually. And that decision that I made on that date, December 31st, just before midnight, was I am not returning to the corporate world. And that was a huge decision after 28 years in the corporate space. But prior to that, after I learned of my redundancy, I was a mess for that month. And I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I was worried, I was panicking. But in that moment, when I took that bold decision, I knew that there was no turning back. And I know for all of you high-performing women, you are like that too. It may take you a while to make the bold decision, but when you make it, you don't look back. That's why you're a high-performing woman. You stay focused and you run your race. So this workshop today is about that. It's about it. We're not here just for inspiration and for motivation, right? We can get that through many different means. We're actually here to take action. And it has to be bold, decisive action in 2025, ladies, right? You're not just going to dream about things. You're going to actually live. You can have that balanced life. You can have the success in your career as well as find joy in terms of your personal life, in terms of your spiritual life. You just need to know how to balance. And we're going to be rewiring, how you think about power. Each one of us here has power within us, and we just have to unlock that power. We're going to shift how you show up every day for yourself. And by the time we're done today, you are going to have a boldness in you. You are going to know that you can be that powerful woman who you have been in the past. Maybe you're just going through a little rough patch right now. Maybe in fact, you never thought you had the power within you. Maybe people did not speak, positive, inspiring things to you, and you felt that, even as you're sitting in the session, you might be feeling, I'm not good enough. But I'm here to tell you that you do have that power and you are good enough. And you can crush 2025. So I am looking forward to hear from you at the end of 2025. What were the thoughts? What were the words that were coming out of your mouth as you reflected on your year? So if you are ready to get into the session now and you are ready to own your power, just type ready in the chat for me. Sometimes all it takes for us ladies is taking the action, even if it is a simple thing like typing a word in a chat or writing a statement, an affirmation on a piece of paper. So many women say to me, I don't need to do that. I can just think about it in my mind. But the fact of the matter exists that when we write things down, there's a connection with our brain. The mechanical act of writing it down and what is transmitted into our brain, it makes a difference. So if you feel that you are ready, drop that. And what I want you to be bold, your first bold action right now, I want you to write down in the chat one bold move that you want to make this year. Now, I have to admit that because I am in slideshow, I can't actually see the chat. So if anybody wants to come off mute and want to share what that bold move is, feel free. It's just it's a safe space and we can have that conversation. So is there anything, from a bold perspective that you want to do this year?
Hi, Alicia.
Hi.
This year, just like you, I am absolutely fed up of the corporate world. It seems that you keep working harder and harder, and you keep like walking on a wheel. You keep moving faster, and
Like a
nothing is
hamster.
changing. Yes, like a hamster. So you tend to get so fed up, and then there's the external forces in the job that keeps pressing down on you and restricting your growth. When you feel you could perform so much and do so much, they tend to keep you within a cocoon, restrained, so your full potential cannot be realized, right?
Absolutely.
So I so want to get out of that corporate world as well. So I'm doing things right now like programs, courses
Mhm.
and stuff. Well, I'm in the quality assurance and in the
Right?
quality field. So I'm doing programs that would, benefit that. So I'm hoping to start in the germination stage
Mhm.
to just get my consultancy going, start with probably small businesses doing procedures and look at their
Right.
quality management system, nothing huge scale, start off small. So I am hoping to achieve that, at least get that off the ground.
Very good. Thank you so much, Kathy, and for sharing that. And as we go into the power moves, you'll get an opportunity if you want to use that example to go a bit deeper, because it'll be good for us, to understand what are the specific steps that you need to take. So we all know about setting goals, and we know about SMART acronym. I've spoken about this time and time again. But I always say to people, when people talk about their goals, I've noticed that they put a goal, but sometimes it's not very specific, or it doesn't have a time associated. And that's where I think a lot of us fall into the trap, right? Because we leave it open-ended. We're not actually measuring our progress. And sometimes, actually, on the other hand, we may put a time frame that is not realistic. So when we don't attain whatever that goal is in that time frame, we now feel very deflated and we give up. So, Kathy, thanks so much for sharing that. And I suspect very shortly you are going to join me as another woman who has said, thank you, corporate world, for what you've done for me. I'm going to take all my skills and my knowledge and experience now and apply it elsewhere.
Well,
Right?
thank you
So,
for that. And I promise the day I do that, we'll share a bottle of champagne.
absolutely, we will. Thank you so much. So we'll delve further into that as we go along in the session. Now, ladies, the power shift recap. If you've been following me, and I hope you have, you would have seen me do the power shift workshop last month. If you did not actually attend, or you didn't get a chance to look at the replay, please do. It's there in the revalidation circle group. If you can't find it, you can just send me a message and I'll send you the link. But it really was very a very powerful session where we talked about our perspectives around work. And that particular workshop was really meant to be for women who are feeling like they're in the job, they're doing it, but they don't love what they're doing. So they may have started off loving it. And I think we've all experienced that. We are excited when we start a new job. And then as we start to go through the motions and as like Kathy even shared, you know, you start to feel a bit stagnated, like you're just locked in. They're keeping you in a box. You have ideas, you know that you can give so much value, but for some reasons outside of our own control, we're not being able to really grow. And that can be absolutely demotivating. So that workshop was really based on helping you love the job that you're in for the time that you're in it, because not every woman is able to make the bold step, right? Circumstances can just be such that you can't, or maybe before you make the bold step, you want to get your ducks in a row, as Kathy is doing right now, looking at all the things that she needs to put in place before she exits. So if you get a moment, you can go back to that workshop and look at the things, what can you do so that you still experience comfort and you can still give up your best during the period you're in the job. As I said before, power is already within you, right? It's now about unlocking it and really owning that. So today now in our session, we're going to go beyond just the perspective about work. I would encourage you as we go through this session to think about other aspects of life, not just the work. So your personal life, your spiritual life, maybe the part of your life that deals with fun and recreation and relationships, right? We will look to expand in that perspective. And just to recap about the power shift framework, the power shift framework is all encompassing. We speak about mindset, we speak about behavior, and we speak about perspectives. So all three need to work together in everything that you do. Now, as we get into the power moves, each one of these moves is going to have a short activity so that we can have some engagement, and I'm hoping you will get a breakthrough as you start to think about each one. Power move number 1, radical clarity. Define what you truly want. And I am saying to you, without clarity, bold actions feel overwhelming or misaligned. Now, the thing about it is, if we don't have clarity, and I see this often with women, where when I ask, so what do you want this year? They start speaking, and it's just a bunch of things all over the place, not really structured, not very clear, not specific, right? Not something that probably could even be measured. And what happens there is that because we can't measure it, we can't really get a sense of whether we're moving forward. And because we've not broken it down into smaller bits, every time we look or we think about it, we feel like we haven't done anything. And again, we lose momentum. So when you think about the things that you want this year, I want to ask you the question, how confident are you that you have a radical clarity around what you truly want? And notice I use the word radical, I use the word truly. So not just anything you want, you truly want. It's what is coming from deep within you, not what your husband wants, your boyfriend wants, your partner wants, your mom wants, your children want. What do you truly want? What is going to have, the impact of, creating the joy and feeling that you're living with purpose and that life is not just about work. There's so much more to experience, and you are getting the opportunity to experience. So think about how confident are you that you do have radical clarity, and also why is it for you to have this clarity? So I've just shared that, right? Why it is because when you have the clarity, you can really focus the actions. And another thing I want to share before we move into the activity around this is, and I believe some of you may have seen a post I did on my profile some maybe a month or so ago. I talked about busyness. Every time I speak to a woman, she says to me, I'm so busy. If I can get $1 for every time that someone has said to me, I am so busy, I can't listen to the replay, I can't attend the live, I can't join your one-to-one challenge, I'm so busy. I might have said this in the workshop in January, and I'm going to repeat it because it's something that is so important for us ladies to understand. Busyness, it's not sexy. Don't fool yourself to think busyness is sexy. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying people are pretending, but I'm saying that if you notice that you are so busy, that is an indicator that now is the time for you to change that. Why do we feel that when we say we are busy, it makes us more important? I'm so busy. I have so many things in my job to do. I have so many things, so many people are depending on me. Yes, it's true. We are high-performing women. That's why we've gotten the title high-performing woman, because we are doing a lot of things. But as we progress in life, as we get older, we also have to start wondering, how much of all of these things that we're doing do we really need to do? Are there things that we can literally delegate to others? Are there things you can do that you can get your husband or husband or partner or boyfriend to help with? Are there things the kids could be doing? Are there things that you can simply say no to, not now? Are there things that you can absolutely drop from your list? Let's look at prioritizing. A lot of times what I've seen is that the women who are telling me they are so busy, it's a lack of prioritization. They do not know how to prioritize. They do not know how to say no, because I have been there. I have been a people pleaser my entire life. I was saying to a friend just today, I had to get to age 50 to start learning. I had to relearn, basically, like throw out some of the bad things and start learning again. How to say no, how to stop putting everybody's interests and desires and wants before mine. And we might say that's selfish, but think about every time you go on an aircraft and you go through the safety video, they tell you about putting on the mask before you put on for your child or somebody else. We have got to take care of ourselves first. So when we get this radical clarity, it's going to allow us to take steps that are going to get us the success that we need. It's going to separate the things that aren't absolutely necessary now, the things that we can defer, the things that we can delegate, because delegating is just another way of also saying asking for help. Like, so unless it's in your workplace where you're delegated maybe to a junior staff member, or you have a secretary and you can delegate. In your home, you can delegate to your spouse. You can delegate to your children, right? So when you are able to do that and you are laser focused in terms of where you're going and what you need to do, you are going. There's no way you cannot be successful. But if you continue to fool yourself into thinking the busier I am, the more I will feel good that I'm achieving things, then December 31st is going to come. And when you look at that list in terms of the goals, you are going to be disappointed. And I don't say that with any bad meaning to anybody. I hope that it's not offending anybody. I'm just trying to be very practical, very realistic, because I know it due to the fact that I've done it. I have been guilty of doing that. I loved saying I work 12 hours for the day. I loved saying I'm just going from, back-to-back meetings. I loved saying I have so much to do. My list is just endless. But there is adequate science now, adequate studies that show us all this multitasking is actually not good for us. So in this activity that we're going to do now, I'm going to play a song if I can manage to get the tech. I tried to prepare for this beforehand and it worked, but I don't know if it's going to work again. I'm going to just play a song and I want you to take some time, very quiet, to visualize a successful 2025, right? So I want you to choose one area. It could be your career. So Kathy talked about, her career and being able to move on, use her skills elsewhere. She can choose to use, Kathy, you can choose to use that example. Or you might want to look at something in your relationship or personal growth. Or if you're really ambitious and time permits in this session, you can look at all three. But think about a successful 2025 and I want you to visualize it. So I like to think of visualization, ladies, as the freedom to dream. And every morning when I do my meditation, sometimes there's visualization involved. It's my personal time, and therefore I can dream whatever I want to dream. Nobody can limit me as to what I want to dream. And I am telling you, I have seen where I come off the bed with so much more clarity. Sometimes there are ideas and suggestions that, like thoughts that come true that I just quickly go and I write down. That's the clarity. When we allow ourselves the freedom to just let our thoughts, run. So I want you to I'm going to give you like 2 minutes to do that. And I want you to think about that December 31st, conversation you might be having with someone or just, reflecting with yourself. What is it going to look like for you? How are you going to feel? I want you to feel it. What are the emotions? Are you going to be smiling? Are you going to be crying? Are you going to be angry with yourself? Are you going to be beaten up on yourself? How does it feel? How do you look? Because when we are successful, when we feel good, it shows. We are smiling, we are radiating. That confidence is what I call radiant confidence. So I want you to really take the 2 minutes, and out of the exercise, I'm hoping that you'll be willing to share in the chat. I want you to write down 3 words that represent your vision for 2025. You can share one, you can share all 3, it's fine. You can come off mute and share as well. And the takeaway here also, ladies, is when you define it, you claim it, right? And that is power. We're all about power this year, but to have it, we've got to define it. We really need that radical clarity, and we have to claim it. And we have to put that out into the universe. If you speak to God, you put that out to God. You put it out there so that it can be manifested. Right? So I am going now to, I think I have to end the slideshow just for a second. And I'm going to try to go into my music stuff here. Where is it? And yeah, I'm gonna just play a little song for you, right? And right, take 2 minutes. So it's 3:45 p.m. on my time, so I'll give you till 3:47, and just really enjoy the quiet time and the moment to visualize, to dream. All right, so I did not realize that that time went so quickly because I'm seeing it's 3:47 now. So we're going to go back into the session, and let me just make sure I am sharing again. Right, so yes. So is there anyone who would like, I guess I can actually, share first if it helps. Anyone who is actually interested in sharing, that would be really nice, because I can't see the chat screen, and by the next workshop I'll figure that out. From last month's workshop to this workshop, I learned how to have the music, and I learned how to share the screen so that I wasn't just in normal PowerPoint. I was able to go into slideshow. So next time, hopefully I'll learn how to see the chat at the same time. But for me, I can, 3 words that represent my vision for 2025. I have abundance. So that was at the start of the year, I wanted to choose 1 word really to represent what I wanted to accomplish this year. And I chose abundance because abundance for me, somehow I think it gives the impression to people that it's just about the money, but it's not about money. We all need money. Money is really just energy. And we need it to accomplish things, definitely. But for me, abundance is broader than that, because it's also about the joy. It's about, really having an abundance of love and happiness, and being able to have wonderful experiences. So I have abundance as my key word. And then I also had leadership. And I probably can share with you all right now in this session. Um, Leadership has been a passion of mine for a very long time. As I grew in my career and I was, exposed to a lot of leaders, I saw characteristics in all of them, some that I didn't particularly, fancy, some didn't resonate with me. And then there was some that really stood out, some of these leaders who stood out. And I always wondered, I was always curious as to why. What was it about that person, male or female, that stood out? So I've always been curious, intrigued, always, reading more, trying to apply some of this, the styles that I had been learning and were exposed to. And when I became a manager, I also learned that managing and leading were two different things. So not every manager is a leader, right? And not every leader is a manager, because you can have people who don't carry a title that says manager or supervisor, but is actually so fantastic in leading people, has all the attributes. So the reason leadership is one of my words for this year is because as I've been doing the coaching and I've been really meeting people and understanding the challenges so many of the high-performing women are facing, I've discovered that my passion for leadership it's bubbling. It's like there and it's ready to explode. And as a result of that, I am going to start moving my coaching more into the space of leadership. So what I do right now, it's a bit broader, and I want to really transition, I should say, So that's one of my other words. And well-being is another one. I guess maybe well-being could be considered in the space of abundance as well, but I think I've separated it because I feel like, it's something I have to work a lot on. Because, it's not just about getting up one day and feeling all happy and jolly, and then the next day, how do you maintain that? It's that holistic approach to whether it's your health, whether it is about your spirituality, not just the things that might be on the surface. So those were my 3 words. Would anybody like to share her words or one word?
Hi, Alicia.
Hi again.
I would like to share mine.
Yes, I'd love to hear.
First one would be health, which
Mm-hmm.
involves taking better care of my physical and mental health, like trying to exercise more and finding the motivation and stuff like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Right. The second one would be transformation. I love to see these women who do these makeovers, and I think I am so overdue for a makeover here and the whole transformation. So
Right.
I'm trying to transform myself, so working on that.
Very nice.
And the third one is innovation, right? There's so in the world of work and in my area, I want to find
Mm-hmm.
new ways to do things, explore that. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to be a follower all the
Right.
time.
Correct.
I can be an innovator, so I'm trying to get myself into that mindset of not only following, but trying to find ways of understanding how things are done
Mm-hmm.
and creating new ways of doing things, just exploring it.
Definitely. Patty, that is excellent, because for each of those words that you shared there, I can see some commonality, right? In that they all blend very well together. Health and what you're wanting to do there, getting that transformation is linked, definitely. And innovation, I love it from the perspective also of, so much of what is happening in the world, it can feel like when I started off the session, I talked about people wanting things faster. I also believe that people want things simpler. I don't want to use the word easy, but I would say simpler. And in today's world of work, the people who succeed are really getting after that transformation and creating ways and methods and techniques that can get you the success or the result faster in a simpler way. We want to get away from all the complexities. You mentioned quality control, right? And QA/QC. It's like, I'm sure you have been so accustomed to massive documents, like procedures that are so lengthy. There's so much to go through, and you would hear the people who have to implement these things talk about that. It's so much, and that's why accidents do happen, because somebody has taken a shortcut, because it's too much, it's too complex, it's too tiresome. And I love the fact that you're looking at new ways of doing things, simpler ways, basically being innovative. It doesn't mean that, all the people who have created things in the past, that we always have to be following what they do. We can find ways and means to do things, get the same result, but maybe in a faster, simpler way. So wonderful words. I love that you shared these.
Thank you.
Right? So I hope it has been an enjoyable power move there. And I want to move on to power move number 2, right? Now, this one, I think, can be one that might might seem a little too easy to be true, but I call it the 10% bolder rule. And the reason I call it that is it's about taking small intentional steps outside of our comfort zone. And the reason this is so important is because many times we get overwhelmed when we see what's ahead of us. So when you did the clarity exercise just now, and you think about your vision, because we're allowed to dream big, it sounds nice, it feels nice when we dream. But then when it comes down to the point of actually taking the action, we're like, oh my gosh, this is too much. And then imposter syndrome sets in, and we start to question, well, who do I think I am, to achieve this? This is not going to work. Last year I tried, to do things that didn't work. So confidence and courage, these things are actually built by us taking the steps, but they can be micro steps or micro moves, right? And a lot of people tend to think that to take a bold move or a bold action requires a massive leap. And I want to really say to you that in reality, this is not the case. If we can have consistent micro moves, we are going to be able to have momentum, and we are going to be able to accomplish that vision, right? And that goal or goals that we've set in place. For too long, people have been really focusing on the big, massive changes that need to take place, and they basically talk themselves out of it, right? So the brain actually resists scary things. The brain, can actually handle small, manageable steps. And that's why I said at the start, to accomplish your goals in 2025, you don't need a total overhaul. You don't have to go searching for all the things that you think are wrong with your life and try to fix all of them. In most cases, we just put plaster on all of these things. But if you have the clarity and you're very, very much focused and you say, okay, I'm going to break down now this goal into some micro moves or micro actions, you are able to take them step by step. You're able to celebrate your wins more frequently than if you had it stretched over a long period of time. And in that way, you become motivated, you become confident, and you're able to continue, even if you are getting a few setbacks, because the journey is not going to be smooth road all along. There will be setbacks, and that's just part of life. So we've got to acknowledge it and accept it and recognize that throughout all of this, we are building resilience. So when those setbacks come, we can use them, in a powerful way to learn and to grow. So if you think about taking just 10% out of your comfort zone, so you have an action and the action might seem like it's a bit big and you're not sure. If you just do 10% more than what you're currently doing, you are going to see yourself making that progress. So think about, let me give you an example. Think about something that you've been hesitating to do. Maybe it's something that you know is going to move you forward. If you could only stop being afraid and doubting yourself. So I'll give you an example. If you have, all right, so I'll use Kathy's example. Kathy talked about essentially transitioning from the corporate world. Now, that can seem like really that's a big move. How are you going to do that? When are you going to do it? Are you sure that's the right thing to do? Do you really want to move away from a secure job where you know every month you're going to get a salary and you don't have to wonder if this month you're going to make the money, etc., etc., etc. And we can go on and on, right? If that starts to become really overpowering and you're struggling, the 10% bolder rule kicks in now, where you can simply say, okay, what's one thing that I can do to get me closer? Kathy mentioned doing some courses, right? Doing some programs, because she's looking to improve maybe her competence in a particular area. Another 10% move can be, once you've completed maybe the courses, you've gotten your certificates, you go and you update your resume to include now these things. Maybe another 10% move can be based on what you've gotten qualified or certified in. You can look for a potential opportunity in your job, maybe a small project, something somebody else is doing that you can get involved in, so you build your experience. Maybe another 10% move can be, once you feel you're comfortable, you're ready, you update your LinkedIn profile, right? So that is something that can work for someone who is looking to either transition, out, or look for another position within the company or outside of the company. Maybe, you're thinking, you feel very intimidated to speak up in meetings. And I've had a lot of women coming, to me with that. They don't feel confident to speak up in a meeting. And it can be, I've experienced it myself. I used to be absolutely shy. Absolutely. I really preferred be a wallflower. If I could be in that room and they could just ignore me, did not see me at all, I was happiest then. And then I realized, but I'm in the meeting and I have a good idea I want to share, but everybody is sharing and I don't want to put my hand up because I think everybody's going to laugh, or my boss might think, well, she's really silly. How could she, not know this? Or a simple 10% rule could be, if you don't want to share in that big group, maybe there's a smaller group that you're involved in, and you can just start putting your hand up, every meeting, you just start putting your hand up. I want to share this. Or you can ask a question, right? And as you continue to do that and you realize that people are actually willing to hear what you say, they're willing to have your contribution, you're going to get the confidence so that the next time this big meeting, this big leadership meeting or whatever it is that is happening, maybe there's some senior people there, you can be brave to voice. So the point is here, it's the small shifts make big impacts. And they can lead you to really having that boldness and really embracing that power that's within you. Do not think you need to do it all in one go. Really acknowledge that even if it means you go slower, you are still going to win because you're not competing with anybody else. You've got to just run your race. So, I hope that helps, really helps you in that now you've gotten clarity, so you know where to focus your attention. Now you recognize you can take small shifts, micro moves to get to the outcome that you're aiming for. And before we go into the third move is a fun move, and you'll be amazed at how simple. I want to share a story about one of my clients. So her name is Jenny. And when Jenny first came to me, Jenny was stuck, completely stuck, like so many of the high-performing women that I encounter. Jenny really believed that she was meant for more, right? But she couldn't quite break through. She was having certain little, positive moves in her career and so on. She was recognized for being somebody brilliant, somebody who could be dependable, the boss could depend on her. Jenny had the qualifications. She had experience. She definitely had the drive. And even though she had all of these things and she had a track record of having success, deep down inside, Jenny felt like she was an imposter. She always played small in meetings. She would hesitate on making big decisions. She would second guess herself when she had to share a bold idea. She would have the idea, but she would not, she would think that they're going to judge her. Her boss might think the idea is stupid. Other people in her team might think, well, how come she's in that position? She's not all that bright, right? I don't know if that sounds familiar to any of you listening to this now. I know I definitely did feel that at times in my career. But Jenny did the challenge with me, the one-to-one challenge, because she had recognized, the key thing for her was she was very self-aware. She recognized that she wanted more, but she also saw that even though she had made progress in her career, she had gotten to a point where she was not really moving forward. And she thought that if she put in more hours and if she accepted more work, her boss would say, well, wow, Jenny is just, like a mini, an Energizer bunny, right? But that wasn't happening. And as she was getting to that point where she started to feel like they didn't value her. She started to feel like, even though she was given ideas, Nobody was really saying, brilliant idea, Jenny, you know. So she actually, was in the group. She saw me offer the free one-to-one sessions, and she said, Alicia, I don't know what these sessions are about, but I hear that you're talking about things about confidence, and you're talking about how people could shift their mindset and all these things. So I'm open to try this out. So Jenny came in, Jenny did my challenge, and we worked through some of these things, and she was able to get some small shifts during those 5 sessions. And then she opted into my program, the Revalidation Power Shift. Everything changed for Jenny. The first thing in a very short time, because basically, the first thing we work on is that radical clarity. And Jenny had to really discover herself again. Who is Jenny really at this stage of her life? The version before that had gotten her all the success, something had changed. And she needed to rediscover her identity. She needed to look at her core values. She needed to look at what really success actually meant to her at this point in time. And, I had asked her, I said, Jenny, if you could design your ideal year, what would it look like? And she allowed herself to dream, just like we just did. Look at the vision, think about that vision. What is it that you want? So she dreamed, and she really dreamed. She was able to express down to the smell of things, how she felt, what emotion it invoked in her, how she looked as she walked through the door, and she realized that she didn't just want a promotion, right? She really wanted to be able to lead people. And more than that, she wanted to move away from this space where everything was just about work, and she wanted to have more. She wanted to have time with her family. She wanted to be able to, have the boundaries where after 6 p.m., no phone calls. I'm spending time with my family. And she didn't want to have to feel guilty for wanting those things. So the moment she got clarity, things started to switch. And then she realized the clarity alone, I mean, we can dream, we can have that clarity, but she needed to change behaviors. So it meant the 10% bolder rule stepped in. And at first she was nervous to tell her boss, I'm not going to take calls, because the boss used to be calling her after working hours. And she was scared to say, I'm not going to, I'm not available. I can't come on to this impromptu call now. But little by little, she started to make those shifts. She started to set boundaries with family members as well. And I'm telling you, it was really an exciting moment when she said to me, Alicia, I went into a leadership meeting. I was the first person to put my hand up. I shared my idea, and everybody was really impressed by my idea. She had done the work. She had done her research. She had thought through things. She came in and she basically made her case with her idea. And Jenny was able to get promoted. There was a job that was available. She had not really thought about applying for the job because she thought she wasn't good enough. She had raised it with me and she said, look, I really want this, but I don't think I can do it. And we worked together to get her prepared for her interview, well, to get the application in, etc. And she got the job. She did the work. She took that leap of faith. She made the bold move. And before she had gone into the room that day to make in that powerful meeting, there was something that she did, which brings me to power move number 3. When I had spoken to Jenny about this power move, she did not believe me. She's like, that's kind of silly, right? And she felt silly doing it, just as I did when I was first introduced to it. But this is a move that massive, these big, powerful people like Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, they do this, right? They work on posture and their physiology. Don't think when you see these people go up on a stage like it before an event that they are not. You ever wonder how come they're so pumped up? Do they naturally just get up in the morning being pumped up like that? Or are they just on a high because they drank some energy drink before? It's very simple. And I want us to go into this with an open mind, right? And try it, because I have been doing it and I actually laugh every morning, which is also very good, right? This power move helps. It releases testosterone. It releases, it reduces, cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and it really makes us laugh, right? So I want us to go, and I have to say, I just made a real big blunder. So I'm happy to laugh at myself for this, because I was so excited to go into power move number 3 that I completely forgot the activity for power move number 2. So bear with me. I only just press the mouse to click to the slide, and I realized I jumped ahead without going into the activity. So this is going to be a simple one. So I kind of killed the mood there. Sorry about that, because I was so hyped up about sharing Jenny's story and going into the power move number 3. But let's just backtrack a little bit. I'm just conscious of the time as well. So we still have some time. We're doing good. Go back to activity number 2, basically. And I want you to look at one decision or action that you've been delaying out of fear, right? And when you think about that action or decision, what is the first 10% step that you can take this week? Not next week, not the week after, not the end of Q1, this week. If you're comfortable to share that bold action, please do. And I want you to remember, bold. Ladies, bold does not mean you're doing something reckless, right? Bold just means it's intentional. And when it's intentional, we really put our effort in, and it's intentional from the perspective that it's something that's going to draw you closer to accomplishing that goal. So this activity is called the Bold Action Audit. And again, I'll play a song for 2 minutes, and you just spend the time on this one, right? So here goes. Let's just play a song. Right, so it's 4:18, so at 4:20. All right. So, as I was sitting there, I was just laughing at myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, how could I make this blunder? You know? And if I think back to a year plus ago, if I did something like that in a meeting, I would not be laughing like I'm laughing right now. I would be like literally feeling cold. My palms would be sweaty because I knew that my boss was going to pull me aside and give me a really heavy whipping, basically, not physically, but really tell me off for making a blunder. And I think it's so important in what we're discussing even today with power moves to own our power means to have that confidence in ourselves and to also value ourselves and not allow people to abuse us, So whether it's bullying in the workplace, which you might not think is bullying, because when we think about bullying, we think it's the little kids in school, right? But as adults do bully each other. And um, I have been bullied, right? So not being able to recognize when someone is speaking down to you and is embarrassing you and is talking and making you feel bad about everything that you do, it is bullying as well. So now I can laugh when I make a blunder because there is no boss to bully me. If it's anything, I could, laugh at myself. I could probably speak harsh to myself. But I have learned that in life, we all make mistakes. And it might simply be a mistake on a presentation. It may mean a mistake pronouncing something or saying something that's on your mind that might possibly offend somebody. But I think for us as high performing women, taking bold action, believing in ourselves, knowing that we're coming from a good place, an honest, genuine place, that's so important. All right. So I shared actually my decision that I had been delaying, and that decision was to transition or pivot into the space of leadership in my coaching. And I did that literally last week. I I really felt, as I said, the fire inside of me to do this. I felt like I've spent almost a year coaching women in different, on different pain points. And ultimately, in most of the cases, there was an element of leadership that, some of them were already leaders, some of them wanted to be leaders. And all of these situations that they were describing to me were components of that. So my 10% step that I took last week, the first 10% was reaching out to a couple people who I'm close to just share this and to get a sense of, what were their thoughts about it. And once I had done that and I really kind of put it out there, because it was all in my head, I put it out there, I started to feel a different kind of energy, and there was excitement. And the next step I took was to reach out to one of my mentors who I knew was going to be very objective about this. And he was. And he gave me certain guidance, but he also gave me some actions to take. So same rule, 10% bolder. And my step this week is that I am going to work on some of the sort of background changes that I need to do within my coaching business, from things like my Facebook profile, my group, work on my offer, my program. Doesn't mean that I'm going to remove the things that I have been doing. It's just I'm adding another layer on. And that's a pretty bold step for me because since the onset, I have been pushing it aside because I kept saying, I'm not good enough to do this. I'm not ready. I'm this. And there was so much fear. So I hope that this particular activity and what we're doing here really enlightens you and helps you to really come out of any sort of fear that you may be experiencing. Um, so I guess, Kathy, I would ask you, is there anything you would like to share in terms of this activity?
Actually, yes. Similar to your story, um, I have my knowledge and that I've acquired and through experience, but even though in meetings and stuff, you tend to feel, shy to put ideas forward, you know, and that's my weakness because my boss have a tendency, the minute you put up your hand and you come up with a suggestion, she puts you to lead it. You know?
So if you come up with the idea, you get more work to do.
Yes. So I know that could work as a good thing as well, you know. So my 10% first step would be to, if I have an idea, get as much background knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and so be prepared. So in case you say, okay, Kathy, you lead that, I will do it confidently.
Very good. Very good. I like that. I always believe that. So I'm not someone who's going to come and say to people that, we're just going to wing it, right? So yeah, for you to be bold, just keep putting your hand up all the time. And I'll give you a little example. I'm not going to call any name because this person is from Trinidad, and maybe people will know. But there was someone who I used to work with a very long time ago, who a very, very nice person, very cool, um, likable person. But this guy had a way about him that every meeting he must put his hand up. But 9 out of 10 times, it was literally, sorry, repeating something that was said in the meeting or repeating something the sorry, team member or the team leader had said. And even if he had to ask a question, it'll be like he'll ask a question, which, I mean, it was so clear the answer had already been given. But I realized to myself that this guy liked doing that because not just so much for attention seeking, but he liked, I guess it gave him the confidence each time he did it. So just as I'm saying to you, if putting your hand up in a meeting is something that you may be afraid to do, the more times you do it, the more confident you become, right? Now this guy was annoying people, but it didn't matter to him. He was gaining the confidence, and we could see that in his interactions with others. So Kathy, even for you, um, putting your hand up and just being brave and bold to share an idea is absolutely fantastic. I like the fact that you would want to make sure that you have enough knowledge and understanding about what it is, because you could end up being the one to lead it. What I would suggest as well with that is sometimes you may not want to be the one leading it. And this might be where, depending on your boss and how things generally go, you may have to set boundaries too. So if you know that you just want to share an idea, but you don't necessarily want to be responsible to action it, just balance it with what your workload is. And don't also get yourself in a space where you don't feel comfortable to say, well, no, I humbly decline. Because I do get what you're saying. I've seen it many times. The person who puts her hand up, ends up having to do it, right? And I think that's such a valid point because a lot of people would say they don't put their hands up for that reason. They rather just stay quiet because, it's not like the boss is going to take the action and do it herself or himself or give it to somebody else. But I like the fact that you've seen the relevance of being prepared, right? Because we don't want to just be putting our hands up just for the sake of doing it. So thank you so much for sharing on that one. And as we go into the last piece, so I already kind of gave away on this because I was so excited. But this one is going to require us to actually stand. So if, where you are, you're comfortable and you can stand, it's not one of those activities. I'm going to have to adjust my camera as well because I think I'd have to, yeah, let me see. I don't know if you might be able to see properly, but yeah, I don't think you'll be able to see everything properly here. But this one requires, it's a posture, it's a power posture. And as I was saying, all these big wigs in the business, they do this, right? They get themselves really hyped up before they go on stage, before they go into a meeting, a power meeting. And it's really just a 30-second power pose. So if you can, and I really like you too, you literally stand up. And I try to put some little pictures there on the slide because there are different versions and the point is to do something that you are comfortable with, right? So for you, you may literally just want to put your hands on your hip. Another one might want to put like a victory sign or whatever. But do a pose, and how you do this is you really get yourself in a state. So you stand, be firm on the ground, your feet firm on the ground. You do take a deep breath in. Let it go. And you can, do the posture. So for me, I tend to find what works for me is putting my hands on my hip, right? Some people will say, I can do it, right? Another person might put both hands up. Another person may stand slightly to the side and put her hands on her hips. But it's really being grounded and firm and believing in what you're doing. You're not doing it, it's not a joke or something like that. It's really about getting yourself grounded. Sometimes for fun though, when I go, because I have this long standing mirror in my bathroom. So when I get up and I finish with my meditation, and I go into the bathroom, that the mirror is there facing me, and sometimes just out of fun, I do, like some stupid move, right? Or I do this, right? And I also add in a mantra. I am powerful and I choose boldness. So I am powerful and I choose boldness. And I look at myself in the mirror. I am powerful and I choose boldness. And doing that really, really changes the energy, right? So I get really energized by that. And it also, because I may laugh sometimes I don't laugh, but sometimes I laugh because I might look funny, especially if my little fur baby is right there by me looking at me like, what is wrong with her? I would laugh, right? But the point is, here it's make the move, hold it for 30 seconds, definitely do the deep breath, getting ourselves grounded, getting the breathing, in a way that literally I feel like I'm inhaling positive energy, positive thoughts, and I'm exhaling all the negativity, all the toxic, thoughts and feelings and what have you, all the pessimism. exhaling it and taking that stance, that posture. So you may do that if you're at home, you may do that in the morning, but you can always even do it before a big moment. So maybe you're at work and you're going into a meeting where you have to do a presentation and you have butterflies in your stomach. You can just excuse yourself for a few seconds, rush to the ladies and look at yourself in the mirror. And it's like, sometimes we hear people say, give yourself a pep talk. So your pep talk there could be the mantra, right? But you do the stance, that power posture. If you've ever looked at Tony Robbins, start checking him out on YouTube and so on. He is a strong believer of this, right? These things energize. My mentor in our sessions, like if we have like a session, we would do this and we would also say something like, I'm the best, right? I'm the best. So I'm saying to you, you can say, I am powerful and I choose boldness. And you can say it a couple times, 2-3 times if you so desire, but get yourself into that state, right? So I to just share about that piece with regard to Jenny, my client Jenny, that piece, which was the last move essentially. I remember her really laughing about it because she's like, this is ridiculous, I'm not going to do this, Alicia, and she said that same meeting that she had to go into, she went into the washroom. She did her power posture and she walked into that room with her head held high, her chest lifted, basically, shoulders back, a smile on her face. And she went in and she said, she knew she was going to have something to talk about in that meeting. She wanted to be like one of the first people to put her hand up, and she did it. And she impressed them in that meeting, right? And I truly believe that was the start for her in terms of the promotion that she got. If she had not really blown them away right then and there, all the other steps, all the other moves that she made would not have led to the promotion. So sometimes we may think it's very simple, basic things, but knowing them and actually doing them, that's where the connection, that's where the transformation happens. You've got to do, right? So ladies, I do hope that this session has really been fruitful. I hope that you will practice these power moves. And I really want to invite you now, if this has been meaningful to you, if you feel like you do feel you're leaving with motivation and inspiration, but you also are moving on from the session with these powerful moves, these 3 power moves, I want to invite you to a free power activation call. It's just one-on-one with me, where we can explore where you're at. How are you feeling, whether it's in your job, your personal life, whatever it is. How are you feeling now? What is calling out to you? What is your heart, your soul saying to you that you need right now? Jump on a call with me. You can send me in the chat now, or you can just send me a direct message and I'll contact you. And if you feel like this has really been great, I don't even need to have that activation call. I know I want to do Alicia's challenge. My challenge is called Reignite Your Power. I put a QR code here. I'll leave that slide up there. You can just, literally aim your camera. Some people, when I placed this to register for this workshop, some people didn't quite understand what to do. You just go to your camera, you aim it on the QR code, and it's going to show up mypowerunlock.com. You click that, right? And then it takes you to my website, to my page where you can register for the challenge. Now, the challenge is one-to-one. So when I get your information, I will reach out to you and we can set up the 5 sessions, right? These are free. It's coaching. It's on one particular pain point that you're experiencing. And yeah, we take it from there. So ladies, your boldest self is waiting on you, right? You have to claim her. Let me get the words correct. Stop playing small. 2025 has to be your boldest year, and you can simply by adopting these 3 power moves. And of course, if you want to go deeper into the power moves, that's where the challenge is. You can come in and explore that with me. You can explore my 3-month program, whatever suits you. But it does start by you taking the bold move of either doing the activation call with me or the challenge, right? So I want to say thank you so much for your time. I did go over a little bit, so I need to check on that and see where I can cut back a little bit. And I do hope that I hear from you all. So reach out if you can in the group as well. For those who are, if you're in the group, well, yeah, I think everyone is in the group actually. You can just put a comment, let people know how you felt the session was. If you're looking at the replay, when you finish with the replay, put a comment to say how you felt this workshop actually was. And if there is a specific workshop you are interested in me covering this year, just let me know. So I'll definitely do that to be able to serve you better. All right. So thank you so much and have a wonderful remainder of your afternoon, or if you're in, whatever time zone, whenever you're looking at this, enjoy the rest of your time. Take care and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Excellent session, Alicia.
Thank you. I know we will catch up. I know we will talk
Yes, definitely.
outside of the workshop. So thank you so much, Kathy, for being
Welcome.
here and for
Bye-bye.
participating fully. Bye.
Bye.